my timing has always struggled. And even after college, I was, teaching full time and performing, and all that playing still did not fix it. So then a couple years ago, I joined this band, and they had some really fast tunes in their catalog. I mean, I was struggling to keep up. My shoulder was locking up. I just couldn't hang. And so then I started to do some research and just like really intensive practice for a couple weeks, stuff that I hadn't really done in years. And I discovered what my fundamental flaws were. And there were many. And these exercises that I discovered in that process finally helped me bring my groove back on track. And so that's why I wanted to make this video today, so that I can help you not waste years like I did. So we'll get to those exercises in just a second, but the teacher in me knows that there's going to be a knowledge gap between what I was struggling with and what some of you might be struggling with. That's a prerequisite to get to the things that I was struggling with. It's a never-ending process of struggle. So I wanted to cover some basic rhythms, just how to count them, tap your foot, and pick. If you already know your subdivisions, great. You can skip ahead to the next section. We'll see you there. But for the rest of you, we're going to keep going through this. So most music we listen to is in 4/4, and I'm not going to take the time to explain what a time signature is today. Just know that we're counting to 4 over and over and over again. And every time you say a number, that's a beat going by. And these groups of 4 are organized into what are known as measures or bars, okay? And there are many ways to kind of divide that measure. The first basic option for notes is called a whole note because it takes up the whole measure. It's worth 4 beats. You would play on 1 and it would last through the rest of the measure. It looks like a little circle, and we can start to use the metaphor of a pizza if we want, so this is the whole pizza. Now, if we take that pizza and we divide it in half, we get half notes. Half notes look like whole notes, but they got a little stem off of them. They're only worth 2 beats, so you play on 1, hold through 2, so then you would have to play again on 3, hold through 4. Then we can take those half notes and divide them in half again. And what we get are quarter notes. There are 4 of them. They look like half notes, but they're just black and filled in. So now that we got the basic beat of a quarter note established, there are many ways to subdivide it. You can do it in 2, and 3, and 4. There's other options too, but we're going to keep it simple at that. When we divide it in half, what we get are eighth notes, which look like quarter notes, but they're usually grouped in 2 or 4 and tied at the top. You can find them by themselves too, and they have like a little flag coming off. So the way we count eighth notes is you have to say something in between the numbers, but we've already established 1.52, 2. That's a mouthful. We're not going to do that. So we're going to say the word and so when our foot hits the ground, that's always the number. And when our foot comes up, that's the and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and what we're doing is our right hand is going to follow that. So when we go down, we go down. When we go up, we go up. So there's almost like an imaginary string carrying our foot up. So when we divide quarter notes into 3, we get triplets, and they look like eighth notes, but there's just 3 of them with a little 3 underneath. And because these are an odd number, it's going to mess up our picking. We could go down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. You'll notice you'll get pretty tired pretty quick, although the tone is consistent, which is a nice option for that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go down, up, down, and then on the second group of triplets, we're going to go up, down, up, just to round it off. And the way we're going to count it is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... And our last subdivision will be 16th notes, which just divide the beat into 4. They look like 8th notes, but they got the double bar up at the top. And the way we count it is 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. All right, so now that everybody's on the same page, there's a couple essential habits that need to be there for your groove to succeed. This is besides being rhythmically literate. That's half the battle, so that's why we covered that. But once you have that, the first is go slow. Everybody rushes. Everybody thinks they can play it faster. It doesn't matter. The two things you're trying to accomplish are you need to relax and you need to be able to think one step ahead. And if you're not doing both of those, you are going too fast. I promise you, every time. Speed will come. It's not about speed. It's about accuracy. The second habit is to count and tap your foot. And some of you might be saying, I tap my foot. But I promise you, we're about to find out how strong and confident that foot really is. And the other thing is when you're counting, some people will just count in their head, but I implore you to count out loud because there's something about saying those words out loud that really helps kind of put everything in its place. And the last habit you need to implement is to simply breathe. So many players forget to breathe because they're worried about what they're playing or they're in front of an audience and their nerves are up. But simply practicing how to breathe, when to breathe, allowing yourself to breathe is going to be so helpful because when you don't breathe, you tense up. And there's no way you're going to be able to relax and groove when you're tense. All right, so the first group of exercises I want to give you are just simply random rhythms. I made a whole bunch of playlists below that progress in difficulty, and the way they kind of play out is you'll hear 4 clicks, and then the exercise will play through twice. You can either play an open G string, the 3rd string with it, or you can even strum a G chord. But the idea is that you need to tap your foot and count and relax. So this is a good opportunity not only to practice your groove in general and your just rhythm knowledge, but also breathing. So there are usually 4 measures. Some of them are longer, but the tempo is kind of a good tempo to kind of breathe in for the first 2 measures, breathe out for the second 2 measures. If you can kind of start to get comfortable with that, that's great. And if you start to get really comfortable with it, and they're going to get harder, so maybe some of the easier ones will be good. You can go back and play any sort of kind of G scale over, whether it's a G minor pentatonic, G mixolydian, whatever. Just simply progress from the lowest note to the highest note and back down again, only using the rhythm of the example. All right, so let's talk about my fundamental flaws now. The first was what with a lot of players struggle with. It's just speeding up or slowing down in general, okay? Given. The second was transitioning from 8th notes to triplets and to 16th notes, and to keep that foot going while doing that. I would find that my subdivision wasn't accurate right off the bat, and it would take me a couple notes to kind of refine the groove, and that's just not acceptable. And especially if there's no click going, that'll really expand or shorten the time as far as if you're speeding up or slowing down. So that's not good. So this first exercise that I discovered completely shone a spotlight on it, put it under a microscope, and that's simply dropping beats or dropping a measure. Having the metronome going, having a drum beat going while it's muted for a measure and then coming back in will immediately tell you if you're speeding up or slowing down. So for this first exercise, I'd like to play an A minor pentatonic with just 8th notes, and on the 4th measure, the drum beat's going to drop out. So for the last exercise, we need to address the 8th notes to the triplets thing. So we're just going to play on an open string, 2 bars each of quarter notes, eighth notes, triplets, just kind of transitioning between them with a steady click. Then we're going to do it again through a minor pentatonic scale to kind of increase the difficulty. Then, I'm not going to demo it, but I want you to go back and play over that drum backing track with this same kind of concept just to really drive it home, because I could do it with you, but ultimately this is something you need to do on your own and just kind of see where you come back in. Because if you're listening to me, that's going to help you keep back in track. All right, guys, that'll do it for this lesson. If you enjoyed it and you found it helpful, please comment below. Let us know how you're doing. Even come back a couple weeks later if you've implemented some things and it's helped. Love to hear that. Like and subscribe if it was helpful, and we hope to see you next time. Cheers.